know that's like the style of Morning Oddities. We keep it classy here on Morning Oddities, unlike that other podcast.
Other podcasts where we're just degenerates.
We're
classy.
Playing all kind. Yeah, we keep it classy. I know what the majority of this episode's gonna be about. But before we get into that, I want to tell you, I just saw Ballerina, the cat. I forget the colon.
The Cat in the Hat.
The John Wick. From the world of John Wick, Ballerina. Just Ballerina.
Nice.
I think there was another movie called Ballerina, like actually about ballerinas. Like not a
you would usually assume that a movie called Ballerina
just about normal ballerinas.
About normal
not
ballerinas.
Ballerinas that are a front for an assassin clan.
Yeah. Isn't that like Black Widow? Isn't...
Yeah, I mean that kind of is too.
What was that movie? Red Sparrow. That was like
also that, but this is the best version of that. And so yeah, this is in the John Wick world, with the coins and everything, and it's in this accentuated.
It's it's a great
comic booky world.
Yeah, it's comic booky. The John Wick world is like this. When you think about it too much, it makes zero sense, but I love it.
But I love the lore and like all these different clans and tribes and the rules and everything. But this one introduces some new things and it expands on the universe in a cool way. It's not just John Wick, but a woman.
Nice, yeah.
Which Atomic Blonde kind of was that, but that was also really good with Charlize Theron.
Atomic Blonde's really good,
But that's its own universe. But maybe it could be tied into it. That'd be cool. But Ballerina with Ana de Armas, and I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, is within this world. But it's not directly connected to the events of John Wick. But it also does take place during the events of specifically in between chapter 3 and chapter 4. But like kind of during chapter 3.
Right, okay.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
And yes, Keanu, which he's an executive producer on this too. So I think it's fair that he gets a cameo in it. And also you would expect that this is the first spin-off of John Wick after it's been solidified as a major franchise and film. It started off on just like on this one-off kind of more lower budget action film, and then it ballooned into well, it's a great series. I mean, it's not that it's lost touch with its original artistic goals, but you know what I mean. It's become what we know it is now. This huge comic booky neon lights, high octane action, but like very specific, stylish John Wick action that we know. Yeah. And with the gold coins and the high table and the order and all this and all the rules and the concierge, and it's Lance Reddick's last appearance in a theatrical production. Like one of the last productions he filmed. Wow. He's in it a bit. Nice. And I would think that maybe they filmed this like maybe after a little bit after chapter 4, or maybe around the same time possibly. But so that was cool seeing him one more time. And of course, Ian McShane plays a part in it. Not as much as they would be in the regular John Wick movie. Right. And that's what I like about it. It's set within this universe, but it is the ballerina, and her name in the movie is Eve Baccarana. I'm pretty sure, but Eve, and it's set within this world. She's in the Ruskarova clan, which John Wick was in at one point in the past.
Oh yeah.
They're the Ruska Roma.
That's the Russians in the first movie that he.
Well, yeah, but that's not the bad one. That's the gang. That's just the mob boss guy.
Yeah, that's the mob boss. But then there's the actual.
The Ruska Roma is the assassin clan. You have all these different clans, and they're the Russian one basically, and they have the Ballerina Theater in New York where that's like their front. But then, you know, behind closed doors, they train to be deadly assassins.
I love the idea in this universe that it's like they have these fronts and it's behind closed doors, but it's heavily implied
like
that
the Continentals.
Everyone knows.
Well,
in a way,
in this universe, they'll just start open firing on each other in a crowd.
Yeah,
and people run off, but the police never show up.
Yeah, it's like
the world governments never get involved in this because they're like,
be like everyone.
We stay away from this.
Everyone, it's like kind of is like vaguely aware of the existence of these assassin clans.
It's kind of like Assassin's Creed.
They just don't talk about it.
It's kind of like Assassin's Creed universe with the Assassins and Templars being integrated into the real world, but it's like people know about it, but they just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, like it's just one of those things you just don't talk about. You just don't talk about it.
But I'd like to go deeper into the lore of this and maybe in another movie or something. Like how has it what happened in the past where basically it's this mob rule by assassins that really the table and everything is the highest world power if you really think about it. Behind the scenes. But anyways, it starts out as, a basic revenge plot, sort of. But however, it starts out showing her father, similar to John Wick, gets away from the life and is raising her to have a normal life. And, but of course it always comes back to you.
Yeah.
And this new clan that we're introduced to, they follow their own set of rules outside of the table. They have nothing to do with the table. They don't give a shit about it. And they have a X mark on their wrist. And their clan, basically, just to sum it up, they won't kill each other. Like, they have their headquarters and stuff. But, when it comes to the rest of the, table in the assassin world and, the rules of the Continental, you don't kill anyone in the Continental, they do not care about those rules.
Right.
And, the other clans
they're sort of outcasts in the assassin
They're
world.
outcasts, and the other clans are scared of them.
Right.
They're like, we don't mess with them. We let them do their thing. And as long as they don't mess with us too much, but, they kind of let them do what they want because
peace.
They're tentative peace. It's very tentative peace.
They know it would be a war.
But yeah, exactly, and that's a plot point. And anyways, early on, they go after her father because they're going after Eve because they want her so they can raise her in their clan and train her and everything.
Right.
And then they end up killing her father in front of her and everything. And then Ian McShane finds her at the orphanage and basically tells her, I can bring you back to your family, and it's not going to be easy, but you can give you the power to go after the people that have wronged you, basically.
Right. Yeah.
When she's a child, and then it's not it's kind of a training montage of her ascending the ranks within the Ruska Roma, and it shows what the tattoos mean. Every time they ascend ranks, they get more tattoos. And then she ends up, and they tell her, her trainer tells her, yeah, you're small, you're a woman, you're always going to be weaker than the men out there. But use that to your advantage, fight dirty. And she says, and this is kind of a corny line, but it works in the movie and it makes sense. She's like, fight like a girl.
She goes, fight like a ballerina, and then another person goes, say that again.
Say that again. But anyways,
and then she goes, yeah, you'll fight like a John Wick story, Ballerina. Yeah. And they look at the camera, dead on.
But it shows that, and it shows her ascending the ranks, and uh, and then she goes on her first. She becomes I forget what they're called within the movie, within the universe, but she basically becomes like an assassin bodyguard, where she isn't an assassin. She doesn't go out to hit for a hit. She gets tell of a hit that's going to happen and has to protect the target from the hit.
Right. Because in this world that where like assassins are like a commonplace like world power,
yeah,
you would have to have a whole system built around it like that.
Yeah. So she's not necessarily like a pure cold-blooded killer like John Wick was made to be, and a lot of the other assassins are. She has a bit more heart and sympathy and everything, because she's a lot of her missions are doing bodyguard missions, or at least her first couple missions. She does a success. They send her with just a non-lethal, no-kill order mission with rubber bullets, and you get a cool sequence. They're shooting a guy in the balls and everything, rubber bullets.
Nice.
They're fighting like on, not in an ice rink, but like on a ice stage in this rave, like sliding around. And what I love about her fight sequences, it's not just the girl version of John Wick where she's just powering through and John Wick's not perfect. He gets hit and stuff, and that's what I like about it. But he's also just, especially as the movie's gone on,
he's just like calculated,
unstoppable, calculated, like killing machine. Yeah, he gets hit here and there, but he'll get right back up and then keep going, she has a much harder time fighting like multiple opponents at once, but it ends up being very interesting to see like how she gets out of a situation. Like she's very scrappy, using just different objects in her environment as weapons, like smashing plates against people, ice skates, stuff like that. She's good. She's great with firearms and stuff, much like John Wick, but not like to his level. Like she'll still get it knocked out of her hands and get thrown by a big guy and slammed into a wall and like roll over. She's quick thinking and very scrappy.
Nice.
That's what I like about her fight style. It's a lot more scrappy and like on the just kind of just on her toes, just constantly like a ballerina, but constantly thinking of a new way to get out of a situation. And the action's just phenomenal. I mean, it's like the same choreographers and everything from the other John Wick movie. But yeah, they accommodate to her style, and it is a bit more realistic in that, like, you're like, yeah, there's no way she would just power through these guys like John Wick would, because she's a small, petite woman. Like, I don't care how much she's trained. So it's not like that girl. It's still girl boss, but it makes sense. Right. Like, she has to adapt to that and improvise and adapt and overcome, like the meme and everything. But it's really cool seeing that in action. There's a lot of creative scenes that we haven't seen in the other movies. There's a really cool scene where she ends up getting in a situation where her only set of weapons is a grenade belt.
Nice.
So that's all she has, and she starts just grenading guys.
That's what I like. I think the best about a lot of John Wick fights is there's fights in those movies that are just like, they just put this limitation on all the characters. One of my favorite, or like in a weird setting or something like that, that just lends itself to some creative choreography. So one of my favorite fight scenes, I don't remember which movie it's in, it's a hallway fight scene, but he either doesn't have his gun or he runs out of bullets, and there's glass containers with a bunch of knives.
Yeah, the throwing knives.
And they start throwing knives at each other. And that's so good, because it's like, what would these assassins do if they were in this hallway full of glass knife containers?
There's a scene in Ballerina that's kind of a parody of that. There's a lot of like just straight up funny scenes, because instead of it being throwing knives, it's plates.
Oh, nice.
It's like plates and kitchenware that they're throwing at each other, stuff like that. And she ends up kind of she ends up at like this Resident Evil 9 village where the whole village is the assassin death cult and everything, and like just mundane looking villagers come out with shotguns and this European, village in like the Alps, and she literally ends up fighting a whole village.
Oh,
it's awesome. Nice. But yeah, the action's amazing. It's pacing wise a bit more like the first John Wick. There's a bit more of a build to not as much of a slow build, because you see her training montage and like her first mission, and then it escalates where she finds out, the person that killed her, the clan that killed her father, came after her, and now she's going after them. And there's a cool he's already been revealed in the casting, but Norman Reedus is in it.
Oh,
and
nice.
I really dig his character.
I like Norman Reedus, yeah.
Because he's not like super agile like martial artist. No, he's just going in with a pump action shotgun and just like round after round. Like, it's awesome.
Nice.
And he gets wrapped up in it because he used to be part of that clan, and he's trying to get out of it and trying to get this little girl out of it. So it's like, it's poetry. It's what happened to her in the past. Right. Now she has an opportunity to protect this girl and to protect Norman Reedus's character, help him.
Yeah.
And so that's cool. And yes, John Wick is in it for more than just a cameo. Much more than that. Remember the Rogue One Darth Vader scene?
Yeah.
There's a scene like that with John Wick.
You get a hallway John Wick scene.
Like, it kind of... Well, there's... Because in this universe, and we already know this, but he's the Baba Yaga. Like, he's the baddest. Like, he's the scary... Like, it ends up... Do you care too much?
No, not really.
I mean, I know you're gonna like want to see it, but it's an action movie. Like, come on,
it's not one of those franchises that I'm
not like
concerned about spoilers,
story or plot. Like, you're in for the action. Like, as long as I don't spoil action beats.
Yeah,
there is a really cool flamethrower thing.
Oh, sick!
But they showed that in the trailer.
I love a good flamethrower in a movie.
Yeah. But kind of like Darth Vader and Rogue One, or like with Luke against the Death Troopers and Mandalorian. So that's a good example of like Eve. She's badass and everything, amazing assassin, but like she'll struggle to take on like 10 guys or like 5 to 10 guys at once, and like struggle. Like there was a few scenes in the movie I'm like, how is she getting out of this? But that's what I think
it's
cool.
Like not every in that universe, not every assassin can be the best assassin.
No, exactly.
But it doesn't mean they can't have a cool story behind them.
She has a cool, her like style is very scrappy and just improv. Like, you never know what she's gonna do next. But so you seeing her like work her way up and fight through everyone and struggle through the movie. But still remain victorious is awesome. But then you see John Wick show up again, and like how easy, like these guys are like level 1, like drug dealer guys, and he's used to fighting like, level 100 mob boss, ultra armor, the guys with all the armor and everything, the like ultra death kill squad that they send after him all the time, like after chapter 2, like he's used to that. So like fighting these basically villagers is just a cakewalk for him. And like one of the NPCs, one of the extras, like the evil villagers and the cults, is like, oh my god, it's John Wick. It's a suicide mission. And someone else is like, he's just one man. And one of the guys just runs in the other direction. Like, he's the only one with any brain. Nice. But like, you just see him clean up like so easy, because it ends up being in the plot that obviously Eve has gone rogue, and there's about to, even though she wasn't sent by the Ruska Roma, the leader of the evil clan, the really bad clan, is like calls up the Ruska Roma leader, is like, call her off or have her killed by midnight, or this is war between our clans. I don't care if you sit her or not. She's your clan.
Right. She's your mess to clean up.
Yeah, she's your mess. So she sends in John Wick, and he's kind of the like antagonist for a little, like the tiny bit. Like you see that, like he's on the other, like
the Baba Yaga.
He's the Baba Yaga. You get to see the Baba Yaga.
Nice.
Like coming out of the shadows and everything. But of course, he's still John Wick, and Keanu's not going to have his character like
just off this new character.
He just killed Ballerina. Yeah, he just killed her. And like he no, but they end up fighting, but then he ends up kind of assisting her without like the kind of like quiet in Metal Gear 5, like from afar.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
But
or like Willem Dafoe in the first John Wick.
But at one part in the later on in the movie, they're like, "Oh shit! Now Eve and John Wick." Well, no, Eve is still on the loose, and we don't know where John Wick is.
We've lost a John Wick.
We've lost track of John Wick, and like they start shitting their pants because like they know as soon as they turn the corner and they see him.
I like the idea that John Wick is in this universe one of those.
But he's like the Darth Vader of this universe. Like,
yeah, I like the idea in this universe that it's like they're not afraid of him until they lose track of him, and they're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like what he could be doing anything right now.
But yeah, he gets sent in to clean up this mess essentially.
Nice.
But then he has a heart for her, and because first he just tells her to leave, and just leave it alone. He's like, I understand. And she's like, but he killed my family. Like you get to go on your revenge quest. Why can't I? And then he's like, all right.
He's like, I got 5 minutes. I can.
Yeah, till midnight, and it's like already 11:40. So nice. She has like 20 minutes to kill the main guy before he has to kill her. And there's a cool bit. Oh yeah, I already mentioned. Yeah, the flamethrower. There's a really cool flamethrower bit.
Fuck yeah. I love good flamethrower in a movie. That's awesome.
But anyways, I don't want to surprise. There's a lot of other cool stuff I don't want to surprise. But it does a lot to set itself apart. It still feels like it's in this universe, of course, but it sets itself apart, and Ana de Armas nails it. And it actually ties with John Wick Chapter 4 on audience score for 94%.
Ooh.
And I would have to really evaluate this, watch him again and everything. This is at least the second or third best in the series. This is good. The creative action, her story starts out a bit cliche, but her performance is so well done. And she's not trying to just be the female Keanu Reeves, the female John Wick. She's her own unique character with her own unique skills and moveset, and it's just cool.
That's good. And I mean, I was a little worried it would just be John Wick but girl boss, and
that's kind of what I thought.
There's nothing wrong.
I was still excited, but I thought it was going to be more surface level.
And I don't want it to sound like I think the saying girl boss in a movie gets a bad rap because people like to make fun of it a lot. That doesn't have to be a bad thing.
No,
when it's
the original,
but doing it where it's just this character, but
the female version,
like that feels cheap.
Don't just do the female version of, or even the male version of. Give us a new unique character.
Yeah, so I'm glad to hear that it feels like
my hair is crazy.
It's an actual new character with new story.
Yeah,
which is cool.
But no, it was really, honestly, if I could do my quick ranking right now, this could be controversial. There might be recency bias for John Wick Chapter 4.
Right.
I think Chapter 3 kind of gets... Oh, that one's still really good, too.
I mean, it's hard to rank
I feel like that one... But I feel like... For me, it would be like 4, 2,
Mm-hmm.
Ballerina, 3, and 1, but they're all like within such a tight margin. But it could be rearranged so easily.
I mean,
I'm excited.
It's just such an excellent series of action.
It's so great.
Yeah,
like
I wish we could get a video game that was like captured that feeling that you get in those movies, but it's hard to do.
I'll talk about this later, but I've started playing the old game again. Really enjoying on the Steam Deck. And before we get to the Switch 2, obviously, last thing I want to say, it'll be interesting to see, because I've heard rumors about John Wick Chapter 5, like how are they going to make like fake his death, like how does this all work? However, I would just love to see another Ballerina movie and just make it even more its own movie. Like,
I love
you don't
the idea
have to have John Wick in it.
Yeah, I
just
love
continue
I love
her
the
story.
idea of like an expanded universe of the John Wick universe, even if John Wick is honestly not in all of them.
Maybe give us another Ballerina movie before you do John Wick Chapter 5, and then have her be in that too for a cool team up, epic team up.
Because it's like the John Wick universe is one, like, when you think about it too hard, it makes no fucking sense. Nothing about it makes any sense.
Well, it's a comic book universe,
but it's fun and it's cool. And looking back on the first movie, obviously the first movie had really excellent choreography. That was like, it was like nothing. There was very little out there that was that style of choreography
actually reloading
at the time. But also what it did so well, I think what made it carry over into just like this bigger franchise versus something that like another movie came out around the same time was like Kingsman, The Secret Service, also had this really bombastic, very, very cool action style, but they were not as successful in carrying
only like that first one was good, like really good.
Yeah, the second one was okay. The third one,
it's okay. Third one
was pretty bad.
The King's Man.
Yeah, third one was weird. I didn't like the third one. The second one's okay.
Where Hitler was in the post-credit scene or something.
Yeah, it was. But like that's like the first one of those is a great movie with great action, great choreography, but they weren't as successful in carrying it over. And I think it's just what worked with John Wick. It was this really unique idea,
but it started out very small.
Yeah, it started out small, but it had this like.
It alluded to these weird things.
To a larger universe that was also a unique universe, and that's the best thing it did in that first movie was just like, what are these weird coins? What's this hotel that assassins go to? That's like,
and they have the Continental series on Peacock, like where they first started in the 70s. I still need to check that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
I'm surprised there's not like an animated, like an anime.
Yeah. But like the Kingsman series was like, that's a cool universe, but it's still just like, what if James Bond was more like violent? Said fuck, and did backflips, versus John Wick is like, that's an actual like unique idea. I mean, in some ways it does pull from other stuff, obviously, but like it's a unique idea.
I'd be down to see a movie, something with Norman, or just anything more with Norman Reedus besides Norman Walking Dead spinoffs. Like, give us more just Norman Reedus.
Yeah, he's great.
Besides Walking Dead, I mean, I like Daryl, but like Walking Dead is a dead horse that we keep beating.
Yeah. Every few years, someone will mention a Walking Dead spinoff that I did not know existed. That's apparently in its third season.
Marvel, if you want to do something that's peak. For once, Marvel. No. But give us Norman Reedus as the new Johnny Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
I love Nick Cage, good. But Norman Reedus.
That would be really good.
If we're going to recast. But Nick Cage is Spider-Noir in the live action?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's fucking awesome. I honestly forgot that was happening until you mentioned it just now.
Like, I'm looking forward to that.
That's awesome, yeah.
Anyways, let's move on to the Switch 2. Yeah. So tell me all about it. It's your turn.
So
talk.
I got my hands on a Switch 2. 'Tis right here.
I see it. Very clean.
Yeah, it's super clean
black.
looking. It feels good. It's very sturdy. It feels just premium. I don't have the other Switch with me at the moment.
That's what I've been hearing.
Compare
It feels way more premium.
Compared to a Steam Deck, it's very similar size.
Much larger screen. Similar size, but much larger screen.
Yeah, less bulky. It's just as thin.
Yeah.
As the original Switch was. So the short and sweet for people who maybe just want to hear that is that it's really good. Everything about it, I think, is an absolute upgrade from the Switch 1.
Mm-hmm.
But it's exactly just that. It still feels like a Nintendo Switch. And I think
the Switch 2.
Yeah. And I think there was a lot of misinformation being spread about it before release out there. And I think people had some expectations for it that it just isn't that. And that's not completely people's fault, I think, and I'll get into it. I think Nintendo kind of was a little bit misleading on some stuff on that. But at the end of the day, though, like, if you say, like, had a Switch and you really, really like that console and you just want that, but 2025, what it should be, or if you're into
you can play Cyberpunk 2077 on it, and it actually looks,
yeah,
it runs good.
Yeah. Speaking of Keanu Reeves,
oh yeah,
but or like if you're interested in getting a handheld console and something about Nintendo specifically intrigues you, this is excellent. But if you were expecting a brand new Nintendo experience, or say you have a Nintendo Switch and you like it, but you're not in love with it, and you say have a PS5 or really high-end gaming PC.
Let's say you're someone that plays your Steam Deck more than your Switch.
Right. And
would this make...
Well, I mean, like...
Or no, let's say you're someone that doesn't have any handheld. I think it would be a great... Like, if I didn't already have a Switch, I would definitely get this. And my only reservation...
That would be it, too, though. I'd be like, if you're interested in getting a Switch and you don't have one already...
Yeah, I'd
buy this one.
That would be...
Don't buy the... Why? Just get this one.
May I ask, do you have the Switch OLED?
I had the OLED, yeah.
Okay, tell me about that. Because obviously on the new screen, you have like 120 hertz, 1080p, so it's a much sharper...
It's a much sharper screen.
High-res image.
But it's not an OLED screen. It's...
Do you feel... I think you miss the OLED?
Side by side, you would be able to spot differences.
Yeah,
it's not
like
noticeable.
Just the color vibrance.
But if you just playing it by itself, it is not noticeable. The screen looks fantastic. Like I said, right. I'm like everything about it. And I went
That's the only thing that's one of the things that kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Mm.
But maybe there's a good reason for this. Maybe the battery life, or maybe they want to be able to get the high refresh rate, or that they were going for, or maybe resolution. But like, I kind of have a funny feeling that in a couple 2-3 years that Nintendo's going to release Switch 2 OLED.
Yeah, possibly.
And that they could have done it to begin with.
It's possible, yeah.
Because Steam Deck has OLED, and it's not. It doesn't seem like it's that hard. I mean, if they could do it on the original Switch and make that work and have a similar battery life, I feel like they could have.
I generally, though, like, I went into this being like, the Switch is one of my favorite consoles ever.
Yeah.
Even though I have a Steam Deck, I still played my Switch a lot, just as much as my Steam Deck. So I went into this being like, I just wanted, that's all I wanted was a Switch, but what it should be in 2025. And I will say, even just holding it, but especially playing some games, because it's
right.
It's mostly backwards compatible with like 99% of Switch games.
And that's great.
There's a few that out there that aren't completely compatible, and it's because they're doing this. It's not quite emulation to make it work. It's kind of what the Steam Deck does with Proton and on Linux, where the Steam Deck is using Linux, but it's running the Windows version of a game by having this translation layer of Proton.
Right.
That's my understanding is kind of what the or the Switch 2 is doing with Switch 1 games, is it has this translation layer so it's sort of emulation. So because of that, there are some games that just don't quite work. But none all of my games work, and
I feel like most of the I feel like the AAA titles would.
Yeah, most of them work just fine. None of my games have any problems, and I will just say, especially when I boot up a game, because I have Mario Kart World, which I've been playing, which is a lot of fun.
Honestly, I might get it just to have that and to be able to play couch co-op and stuff.
It's fun. The knockout tour mode is really fun, which is it's 24 players, and it's, instead of doing circuits, you do one long cross map race, and every so often there's a checkpoint where the last 4 players get eliminated, so it's like a battle royale racing thing. And it's a lot of fun.
May I ask though? I know, so you got the bundle.
Yeah, I got the bundle. Yeah.
So essentially, you got Mario Kart World, what it should have been released as $50, which is cheaper than a new game now.
Mm-hmm.
But to buy Mario Kart World separately, is $80.
Yeah.
Just be honest with me. Do you think that game is worth $80?
No, I don't. It's really good, and I don't know. And I've seen
Mario Kart.
I've seen some discussion about this lot, and there's a lot of people, and I kind of in this camp of there's no game that truly worth that much. The thing is, that is just, at the end of the day, like, that's just what games are heading towards, and they might not be worth it, but it's going to depend on the person. It's going to depend on, like, it's
vote with your dollar.
Vote with your
dollar. Be a lot more selective with your purchase.
Playing some of the games on it,
but it looks great.
Running Tears of the Kingdom, and I have this Switch Online, so I got the upgrade. I didn't have to pay for the upgrade version.
Nice.
Like, running that makes it runs so well and looks so good.
So smooth.
And I also downloaded a couple. I downloaded MLB The Show.
Nice.
Because I already have that. Playing that, the frame rate is just, and it's not an upgraded version. It's just a Switch 1 version. It went from struggling to hit 30 to easily consistent, solid 60 FPS at all times.
Nice.
There are some games that on the Switch 1 are hard coded to have a 30 FPS cap.
Right.
So obviously those games, you might get better load times.
But
they would need a patch to get better FPS because there's that hard coded frame rate limit. But any game that doesn't have a frame rate limit,
Bloodborne was hard coded to run 30.
Yeah.
Such a cringe game. Anyways,
but like playing these games on this Switch makes it, comparing it to the Switch 1 makes it so painfully obvious how really outdated the Switch 1 was.
It was super old.
Like, really painfully outdated. And this brings it up to 2025
Have you messed
standards.
Have you messed with the mouse function yet?
Not really, no. I haven't had the chance because I haven't been playing games.
I've heard it's good.
I will say the Joy-Cons are way better. They feel sturdier, and they have the magnets instead of the sliding it off. And it's great because it doesn't, you know how the Switch, with the Joy-Cons, when you're holding it in hand, it kind of wiggles.
Yeah, it feels a little like a toy.
This doesn't do that. Cheaper. I mean, if you try to do it, it'll wiggle a little bit, but like it doesn't. But it doesn't do that. It's way sturdier. And then also the magnets. It has. You can see this button right here, and you just Comes right off
take it right
like that. It has this little part that sticks out when you pull the button, so it pushes it away from the magnets.
Yeah.
And then it just slips right back on. And it's really, really good. And it's the same thing with the little controller accessory that comes with it.
Let me tell you something.
Let me tell you slip right in like that, and it's way better than how this.
As much as I would like to say, I'm gonna wait it out and eventually the OLED version. I probably will. Okay, not even probably. I will eventually get switched to. Everything you've said, everything I've heard in reviews. It's and to have it just here, I mean, it is a family get-together couch co-op system.
Yeah.
But it's also easy enough to switch the dock around to take it somewhere else. Well, and the Switch, obviously, and then, do the kickstand and all that.
Yeah,
but
and the kickstand on this is very nice.
It looks flimsier than it is. Right. I can imagine having it docked over here by my PC on my desk. And then using the mouse function to play Metroid Prime 4 on my monitor, so it's like a PC experience with a Switch, which is what. There's a lot of, like, you have the Lenovo Legion Go, but that's a very high premium portable gaming PC.
Yeah,
and it's still a gaming PC. And correct me, I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure that one runs on Windows.
Yeah,
I'm sure you can install.
So.
In fact, Steam Linux is like available now. Like you can probably you can do that. You go through all the trouble of that and tinker with that. But the Switch, and what I love about it, and why it will always beat the Steam Deck out, even if it doesn't beat it out in pure power, and maybe it does. I mean, we have to do comparisons.
It's pretty on par. I mean,
pretty on par. But with docked mode, you can play at 4K and up to 60 FPS.
I gotta say, like, I've been playing. I have a monitor here, and I've been playing it docked.
They are in your monitor,
and it is 100 times better looking on the monitor, because the Switch One was one of those.
It never looked good.
Even
on my 4K TV.
It looked like crap in docked mode.
It looked worse.
And so
it looked. Yeah,
I would opt to, if I was at my desk, put the Switch up on its kickstand and play it like that.
Yeah,
if I wanted to lean back, because the OLED screen looks good. This looks fantastic on the monitor. I will point out.
I might imagine I might run into an issue with my ultra wide screen.
Maybe.
But I'm sure I could tinker. I'm sure it will have the black bars on the side or something.
Maybe.
Or would it be stretched?
I will say, and this is something I want to point out about it with dock mode. And this is something that it doesn't bother me in the slightest, but people have pointed it out, and I think this is accurate. Nintendo's been really making a big deal about the 120 hertz screen and Mario Kart World running at 120 frames and all that stuff. It appears that in docked mode, because it does the upscaling, in Mario Kart World, it does seem to be targeting somewhere closer to 60 to 90 FPS.
No, I expect that because you're running at a higher resolution.
Yeah, it is expected, but I think Nintendo their marketing was a little misleading. Because there's a lot of people that didn't expect that, and it's not something that bothers me in the slightest.
It's up to 120.
I have a 1080p monitor. I don't fucking care.
Right, but on 1080p on a portable device is very very crisp.
So I do want to point that out. I think that's a nitpick that you could point out. Is it seems to be, even though they've been really making a big deal about the 120 hertz screen, it seems to be that the standard for this console is going to be aiming for 60 FPS, not for 120. There's going to be some games that
better
come
than
out
the standard of the Switch One, which was maybe 30 FPS.
There are going to be games that are going to hit that 120 FPS, but Cyberpunk's running 30 to 40 FPS, which is pretty solid for what it is. Some of the first party games or less processor intense games are maybe going to be able to hit that 120, but it seems like I wouldn't expect 120 to be the expected standard on this console. I would expect it to be more like 60.
I expect whenever Valve does the Steam Deck 2 or something, whatever they call it, I expect 120 on that. Like, make it work.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting that on every game, of course, especially on new AAA stuff, but on older stuff, like there's plenty of games I have on the Steam Deck that I know that it could run 120 if it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, there's absolutely.
Yeah.
Phantom Pain is one of those where like if on the Steam Deck, if you lower it to medium settings, it could easily have a solid 120 FPS, no problem.
Actually, I haven't messed with my settings, but that's so funny you say that. I purchased the definitive edition. It wasn't even on sale. I usually try to wait, like if it's on sale, but after briefly talking about it in our album reviews, reminiscing, while listening to Billy Idol.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, because that's one of my favorite games of all time.
Oh, it's so good.
And you've gone on and on how well it runs Steam Deck.
Yeah,
and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna experience this game again on the Steam Deck, and I will also have the option to play it on my PC, obviously, ultra settings, because it's an old game, so I can crank it up and probably mod it, even get texture packs and whatever if I want. But just cranked it, but it still holds up. It's still a good looking game for its 10-year-old game. But I started playing a bit of Ground Zeroes just to kind of get the hang of things again. I think that's a good, because that's like the testing ground. No pun intended. Testing grounds of the Phantom Pain. Plus, it's the prequel to it. But dude, I can't wait to get back into Phantom Pain. Yeah. Just side note. I mean,
my experience on the Steam Deck was on high settings, not ultra high, but high settings.
Right.
It never dropped below 60 frames for me.
On high,
on the Steam Deck.
Wow.
On ultra high, all the graphic settings absolutely maxed out.
Because I don't think I'm running high. I think I'm running on like. It looks kind of.
Yeah, on my experience, I was like high settings, not ultra high, but high settings. It was 60 FPS, maybe occasionally dropped to 58.
Wow.
On ultra high, and I like to do this on the games where it's not like that important. I'll lower it to the screen to 40 hertz to save battery life.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you can crank the graphic settings to the max.
Yeah.
And it never dropped a single frame on me. It's a great way to play.
I'm in between.
Yeah.
I mean, I could easily just have my, charging block right there. Just here in the apartment. Yeah, if I'm going to take it on the go or something. Yeah, get down to 40. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm probably going to play around with that while my girlfriend watches Jenny and George. Which actually, I unironically like that show.
Yeah.
But, hey, get away, you stupid bug.
But yeah, the Switch 2 though, I think that the biggest thing that I would want to say about it is, and this is a criticism depending on who you ask, is at the end of the day, it's just an upgraded Switch, and it still feels like a Switch.
But the Switch was already a great.
Oh, the Switch is one of my favorite consoles of all time.
Systems.
Yeah,
not because of its power. I never played the Switch because I wanted to play the most next gen AAA titles. I played it because I like the Nintendo. I like Nintendo's games.
Yeah,
I like.
And I've been playing Mario Kart World, and I got it in the bundle with the console. So, but I don't.
I feel like that's what I'm gonna do.
That's the caveat: is if you don't get it in the bundle, is it worth the price?
At least in the bundle, you're
depends on the
money.
Person. But I will say though, it's a really good Mario Kart game.
I'm gonna want Mario Kart. I might as well get the bundle. I would be wasting extra 30.
It's like it's
wasting money just to buy it separately.
It boots up. I mean, really fast here. So like I just hit launch there, and then It loads for a moment. And then...
But yeah, I mean, I love the matte
and
black.
then we're in there, and you can either go straight into a race, or you can... Wow, and I'm in the open world now.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's seamless. It's really,
that's
really
another
well
thing
done.
I love about the Switch, because it is just a game system.
Yeah. Well, that's
Steam Deck.
That
like
is
the
one
Steam
thing
Deck
tries
to present itself as a gaming system, but it's still a gaming PC.
Yeah.
So it is mostly like a good experience. Like, that's why I would recommend the Steam Deck over any other.
Oh yeah, the Steam Deck is totally like a plug and play. You just turn it on,
if you're like
download a game, and start playing. But
if you're like tinkering everything and messing with BIOS and software and your launchers and are you running if you're a Linux guy, or no, yeah, if you're someone that's always tinkering with all that stuff, yeah, maybe you want to get one of those, buy-in premium like Legion Go or something, because those do have like the mouse kind of thing, but it's like you're holding it like a throttle, no, like a almost like an ice cream cone.
Yeah, I have messed around. You can use the mouse mode in the main menu.
Yeah,
and I've messed around in it there, and it's pretty responsive. It's a little weird because it's really thin, and you still use the joystick,
right,
while you're doing it. So the joystick would be like your middle button on the mouse type of thing for scrolling. Still,
okay.
So it's a little
but
weird.
I can see on Doom on the Switch, or on Metroid on the Switch.
Yeah,
which it's only on Switch.
On
Metroid,
I'm really hoping.
I can imagine that
games get really support it. Like get either games come out that support it, or games.
How's there not a new Mario Paint with that? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. But I'm like, I really hope there are games that like new games really support it, and I hope that there's games that get patches to support it, because like Doom would be fucking rad.
Yeah.
With this.
Well, any FPS game is gonna be better with mouse.
Yeah. I mean, you can play Civ 6 with the mouse features on.
Well, yeah, like that. That
launches
way better experience.
That launches the Switch version of Civ to being second to only the PC on the best way to play the game.
It has mouse function
simply just by having that. So it's cool.
No, and that's such a great innovation. And I think, with the Switch 2, it's like you said, I mean, it's just the Switch 2. It is the modern 2025, iteration version of the original Switch. I'm not sure what graphics card is on it, or what. Like
it's running some sort of like custom NVIDIA thing.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
And I know, like on Cyberpunk, like it's doing, I think is it doing FSR or like DLSS? Like it does it automatically. Like
it is doing some DLSS stuff. There is DLSS,
but like
stuff
from what I've seen, and even Budahar from Some Modern Gamers, and he was kind of giving a criticism of it, but like then he at the same time was going on and how he thinks it's a better version to play Cyberpunk 2077 portably on the Switch 2.
Yeah, well, and it has gyro controls, it has mouse controls, it has...
Because you don't have to fiddle with it. It's just a crisp, clear picture that runs well, and you can play the whole game.
Yeah.
And it looks... it's not like a huge down... Like, you're getting... Cyberpunk as it's intended, not the best version of it, but you're getting it as it's intended. It's not like
really
the
solid version of the game that you don't have
one for on the original Switch, things like that.
Yeah, and I hope games get the Cyberpunk treatment, because it's like one thing that sometimes peeves me about the Steam Deck is sometimes there are games.
Well, I wonder how Witcher 3 runs on.
I've heard that the Switch version of Witcher 3 has a 30 FPS cap. So it would need an update. But I've heard it does have significantly better loading times.
Well, I mean,
that's another thing. Like Zelda, I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom on this with the Switch 2 upgrade, and it's like the loading times are ridiculous on it.
Right, because the loading times and
that game more than any other game makes me be like, honestly, that game probably should have been a Switch 2 game.
Right.
Like, this is how it was. This feels much more like how it was intended to be played. But like with Cyberpunk, I'm just like, on the Steam Deck, there are games that they.
Oh, is it Elden Ring? Isn't that on Switch too?
Later this year sometime.
This year.
I'm very interested in playing that on there.
And then FromSoft's doing their weird. It's kind of gonna be like Elden Ring, Night Ring. Night Ring, Elden Ring, Night Ring, which I don't have. Night Rain, which I don't have because it's a very specific niche multiplayer 3v PvE.
Yeah, I had a coworker who was really excited for that because he thought it was a DLC for Elden Ring.
No,
and then he realized what it actually was and was like,
but Miyazaki just let basically the combat designer of Elden Ring. And I heard like it's gonna have its crowd. Like I heard it's good, but it's like, for one, you always have to have friends.
Yeah.
To play with, and if you don't, it's not going to be nearly as fun.
It looks good, but it's not a game for everyone.
And it's not, and it's just hard to get people together and stuff like that. And it's also just a kind of a speed run, rinse and repeat game. Like you just keep grinding, and like you see how fast you can get to the boss and like beat them, and like or not beat them. And they say most of the time you're going to lose. Like but it looks interesting, and I'll give them credit for that. But I'm kind of afraid that Dusk Bloods is a similar formula because it's also a multiplayer thing.
It's something like that. Yeah. But like I was saying though, like the Steam Deck, for example, there are games that come out that you can play on there that they might run really well, but they're not made for the Steam Deck. They're made for PC. And maybe
it'll be interesting to see.
Maybe the developers take some time to optimize some settings for the Steam Decks. That's what CD Projekt Red did with Cyberpunk. Is they have some settings that are specific to the Steam Deck, but it's still just the PC version of the game running on the Steam Deck. This is the Switch 2 version of the game, specifically optimized to run on the Switch 2. And of course, there's going to be games that come out on the Switch that are just terribly optimized that the developers half-assed that just should not be on there.
Yeah.
But in theory, when a game comes out on a console, when you buy it, it should just work on the console.
And the only recent game specifically for the Switch 2, like involving
the only recent game I can think of that actually has a specific version to the Switch 2 is to the Steam Deck is Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Really?
Yeah, it's still the Steam version of the game, but if it detects that you're running it on a Steam Deck.
Have you played any more of that?
Yeah, I play it still. It's fun. I mean,
okay.
It's
just checking in.
Yeah. It's I still play it. It's fun. Go listen to we talked about it on this podcast, I think.
Is it what you would call a podcasting type of game?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Like where you just kind of
listen to podcasts while you
or listen to music.
Yeah, it's totally one of those. But it's good. I like it.
Those are kind of the games I'm trying to steer away from lately.
Yeah.
I rather like I'm enjoying the Dark Ages, by the way.
It.
I just released Cthulhu.
Nice.
In the story.
Nice.
Yeah. But what I love about that game, you can get just a solid couple hours of high octane action and then just stop.
Yeah.
Like you don't feel like you have to grind and like you can just play a couple levels or play one big level. And then you're like, okay, mission accomplished. I beat that level. Okay, I can go do my errands or go to sleep.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like I have to keep going and keep grinding. And yeah, open world games are designed that way, and I do like that and have time and place. But lately, I've just been busy and have had a lot of time for video games. So a game where I can just play an hour or two and have a great time is rewarding. Where you can just kind of just stop at any point.
Totally.
Like with New Doom, like you can stop and it automatically saves any progress, like any secrets you found. And then you're not pressured. You're not pressured to even complete the same level in the same setting.
Right.
But often, I mean, I will, because it's rewarding and it's fun and it's like, okay, I've completed the level. Now I'm at a good stopping point.
Yeah,
I can either continue or not. Like there's a time and like I miss a lot of linear games. Like there's a time and place for open world and linear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I've been playing Mario Kart World, and that's been fun to play because it's like I can just
go in and
play a Grand Prix. Doesn't take super long. Like
yeah.
Or I've been playing multiplayer. I've been playing online, the knockout tour mode, and that's fun because it's like, in theory, if you make it all the way to the finish of the knockout tour, it's like 12 to 15 minutes of gameplay.
Yeah.
Shorter if you get knocked out earlier, which I usually do because I'm not really that good at.
Right.
I'm not a Mario Kart guy, but it's fun. It's fun. It's short and simple and sweet, and it's just it's a good little time.
Well, and that's why I'm excited to get into Phantom Pain again. I mean, at least when I get through, 30-minute cutscenes in the beginning and everything, and prologue and everything, and then, but it's such an engaging story. I don't care. But like once you get finally to the point where you're just going out and doing missions, I one of the things I remember about that game, like I would go do a mission, rescue the child slaves or whatever, or take out the guy or whatever, or get the intel, and then sometimes they could take 5 minutes. Sometimes they could take 40. Sometimes they could be 2 hours.
Yeah.
Just depending on the mission. And sometimes it's random, like whenever a crazy big story beat happens. And that's one of the things I love so much about that game. And we used to do a series called like Remembering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where we
did a few of those.
Focus on one video game. And I'd like to bring that back, and I vote for Phantom Pain.
Oh yeah, I'm down for that. That's and it's one of those games where it's like you can so easily like you create your own little moments in there.
Yeah, it's just so many.
Like I think last time I was playing it, I had this great moment where I was down in a basement, and I alerted one guard, and I ended up in a shootout in this basement where it was just like this bottleneck of enemies coming down, and I was like on the ground, like running out of ammo and trying. And it was cool. Yeah.
And Metal Gear Delta, the Peacemaker remake.
Mm-hmm.
That's finally coming out this year.
I think so.
I feel like it keeps getting delayed, and I keep getting sad as a result because it looks phenomenal.
Looks really good, yeah.
Sorry, Snake Eater. I'm sorry I got that mixed up. God, please don't crucify me, Metal Gear fans. But yeah, the Snake Eater remake, which it's scheduled to release August 2028.
Nice.
So I it's actually kind of conveniently a good time to play Phantom Pain again. Get used to it again. Get good at Metal Gear, at stealth action again. Snake gameplay again.
Nice.
And, get ready for Snake Eater.
Hell yeah.
Which I get confused about the timeline and Metal Gear.
I have no idea what the timeline is, and it's very confusing.
But I love it.
But it's great. I know Snake Eater is the first one chronologically.
Chronologically, in the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Phantom Pain takes place like just before the first one, before like the top, like
before Metal Gear.
Yeah.
Because in one of those top-down original Metal Gear games, one of the mini bosses is canonically Venom Snake from the Phantom Pain.
Snake.
Yeah.
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 So it's whoa, like big crazy moment.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
do we have anything else to talk about here?
I don't think so. I have some laundry I have to go finish.
All right,
I do have to finish
your laundry. And in fact, I also have some laundry that I got to finish.
But anyway, until next time.
Disgusting!
That is how I feel about when I have to do laundry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
You know how much I sacrificed?
When I'm done doing the laundry. It took that long. Hey, we went a whole episode without using a soundboard.
Yeah. Except for the beginning of the episode.
Except for the beginning.
That
was recorded?
I don't know. Maybe it wasn't.
I don't know.
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
All right.
That's how I feel every time Jackson uses the soundboard.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Until next week.
Fabulous. That's great. Good for you.
Okay.
All right. We see you next week for another Odd Drunk Pod.